He is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my friend across the aisle. I appreciate your kind words and your support for this important piece of legislation. Mr. Speaker, when the United States withdrew from Afghanistan in 2021, over $7 billion worth of military equipment was left behind for the Taliban. This seems to be a usual occurrence for this country, no matter who's in power. I was a mayor, Knox County, and $7 billion. If you just anywhere from $10 to $15 million, we can build a high school in Tennessee. I can't imagine what this would do across the country. But anyway, all that's outrageous. But every cent of our government that they spend comes from the American people. And right now we're borrowing a whole heck of a lot of it. We're $35 trillion in debt. And the fact that their money has gone to terrorists, to me, is just a complete disgrace, Mr. Speaker. This bill would help prevent any more money from ending up in the hands of the Taliban. The bill does three things. First, it states the policy of the United States is to oppose financial or materials that would support the dadgum Taliban. It also calls for a report on any foreign countries that have given financial or material support to the Taliban, and calls for the Secretary of State to develop a strategy to discourage foreign countries from providing support. This came from a conversation I had in a committee, and John Stout in my office. I want to give him some incredible kudos for helping me craft this bill. We asked a member, I believe it was the State Department, this money that we give to these organizations, these countries, is there any way to keep it from getting into the hands of terrorists? In fact, he said no. In this case, there was not. Well, second, three things. Second, it calls for a report on cash assistance programs in Afghanistan that puts the safeguards in place to prevent the Taliban from accessing it, keeping them from getting to the money. Third, it requires a report on the Afghan fund and the Afghanistan Central Bank and what controls are in place to make sure these funds are not diverted or misused. 13 brave servicemen, including a constituent of mine, Staff Sergeant Ryan Knauss. He was technically the last American to lose his life in Afghanistan. The road I live on, the state highway, has been named in his honor. I see it every day when I drive down, and I think about that. And I've held his parents both when they've cried and I've cried, and it's just very emotional for me. But these folks, they lost their lives in the Afghanistan withdrawal. And we need to make sure our tax dollars don't go towards terrorists who killed Americans. I urge all my colleagues to vote for this bill, which keeps our government accountable and prevents the Taliban from getting its hands on any more of America's hard-earned money. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back, and I thank my friends across the aisle as well for their support.